You kids shouldn't play so rough. Somebody's gonna start crying.
A filmmaker's first movie often announces their distinct voice, introducing themes and styles that they will continue to hone throughout their career. This is perhaps for no film more true than for Reservoir Dogs, a movie which not only shaped its writer-director's career, but also changed the landscape of American independent cinema. This is First Films, Reservoir Dogs. Before we start pointing fingers, subscribe to Studio Binder and enable notifications to check out all our new videos. We're dealing with the king of cinematic violence here, so consider this your graphic content warning. There will also be spoilers for Reservoir Dogs throughout.
All right, Ramblers, let's get rambling.
1992's Reservoir Dogs is the first feature film written and directed by Quentin Tarantino. The movie was made for between $1.5 and $3 million and quickly became a sensation after its release. Reservoir Dogs prompted a new wave of indie filmmaking, resulting in countless films with snappy dialogue, homages to B-movies, and stylized violence. But no one could do it quite like Tarantino, and while it may be foolhardy to try to imitate him, there are 6 invaluable lessons any filmmaker can take from how he approached his directorial debut. It can be intimidating to hear that a movie as good as Reservoir Dogs is a first film, especially since Tarantino famously didn't go to film school. But Reservoir Dogs wasn't Tarantino's first time behind the camera. The director learned by doing, cutting his teeth making a few short films, and even a low-budget feature titled My Best Friend's Birthday, which was never completed.
I mean, it's crazy.
By Tarantino's own admission, these efforts were far from perfect, but he learned from the mistakes he made.
Man, just say to forget it. Just walk away. Just walk away from the whole thing.
He explains, I just wasn't as good as I thought I was going to be, and I more or less decided to look at the projects as a learning experience. That was my film school, and to tell you the truth, I think it was the best training I could have gotten. I wound up getting a great education for a relatively modest sum of money.
I want the coolest looking cake you got there.
Oh, my cakes are cool. Come on.
I want that one.
You want the one with the orange
With the
squiggly?
squiggly and the little things on it.
Okay.
This isn't to say that Tarantino learned everything entirely on his own. Before filming Reservoir Dogs, he attended the Sundance Institute Directors Workshop and learned from the likes of Terry Gilliam. But how did a filmmaker with only a couple shorts and an incomplete feature under their belt raise millions of dollars? This started with smart casting. Initially, Tarantino imagined he would need to make Reservoir Dogs on a micro-budget, largely with his own money.
What was I talking about?
But his producer, Lawrence Bender, thought they could raise more and slipped the script to a legendary actor.
Harvey Keitel got involved in the movie by the fact that he'd always been like my favorite actor. I mean, it was a dream, to be able to work with him sometime. We got him the script. 3 days later, Harvey calls me on the phone and says, "Hi, is the script Tarantino? I'm Harvey Keitel. And I want you to know, I think the script's magnificent. It's absolutely magnificent. I would like to be part of it. I really would. I'd like to even help produce it if I possibly could, He came aboard and lent his name to the film, which basically made me and Lawrence filmmakers, as opposed to just a couple of knuckleheads walking around with a script in our hands.
Keitel's name allowed Tarantino and Bender to drastically increase their budget ambitions for the film, but as the casting process continued, they were sure not to cast big names for big names' sake. Tarantino explains, "These things sound fun when you're starting off. Wow, this will be great. We'll get Christopher Walken for this part, and Dennis Hopper for that part, and Joe Mantegna for the other one. Well, those are wonderful actors, but when you put them all together, maybe the right dynamic hasn't been created. With an ensemble movie like this, you've got to build the group of people perfectly." Although Keitel allowed Tarantino to work on a slightly larger scale, the budget for Reservoir Dogs was still comparatively small.
You're a piece of work, my friend.
Tarantino's script, however, leaned into those restraints rather than trying to hide them. He elaborates, "The reason I had it all take place in that one room was because I figured that would be the easiest way to shoot something. To me, the most important thing was that it had to be cinematic. Now, having said that, One of the things I get a big kick out of in Reservoir Dogs is that it plays with theatrical elements in a cinematic form. It is contained, the tension isn't dissipated, it's supposed to mount, the characters aren't able to leave, and the whole movie's definitely performance-driven.
Try and find out what he knew about the setup. There is no setup! Now here's the news. Blondie, you stay here and take care of these two. White and Pink, you come with me, because if Joe gets here and he sees all these cars parked outside, I swear to you he's going to be just as mad at me as he is at you. Let's go.
The contained story also put the focus on one of Tarantino's great strengths, dialogue. This makes the contained nature of Reservoir Dogs not a hindrance, but an asset.
Jesus Christ, I mean, these ladies aren't starving to death. They make minimum wage. I know I used to work minimum wage, and when I did, I wasn't lucky enough to have a job the society deemed tip-worthy.
You don't care they're counting on your tips to live?
You know what this is? It's the world's smallest violin playing just for the waitresses.
Today, few people would argue that the Reservoir Dogs script isn't great, but in 1992, not everyone saw it that way. This is where Tarantino's confidence in himself was crucial. For Tarantino, this confidence largely came from the fact that he knew he could make the movie on his own terms, since he had written it planning on financing it himself.
I couldn't make it for 30,000. I had 30,000. I could have made it that way. So I didn't have to compromise. I didn't have to take any steps backwards. I had bravado when I walked into people's office. When they look at the script, well, we don't like this, and can you change the third act, and can you put in a lady in it, or, all that stuff. I was like, well, I can't. This is the movie I want to make, and I can make it over here this way, so thank you very much, but no thank you. That kind of thought process, that kind of bravado actually helped the movie get made. When you stop asking permission and start just taking destiny in your own hands, things kind of fall into place like that.
By sticking to his guns, Tarantino didn't let his idiosyncratic voice get diluted. Of course, a good script can only get you so far. A story like Reservoir Dogs can quickly suffer if it relies on conventional coverage in the same space over and over again. To avoid this, Tarantino diversified his visual language. Reservoir Dogs is filled with long dialogue scenes, and instead of covering them with the typical shot-reverse shot, Tarantino opted for a more dynamic approach.
There's an old piano and they play.
He explains his philosophy. One of the things I like doing is incorporating many different styles of shooting in the course of making a movie. I never shoot in one specific cinematic language. I like using as many as are appropriate. Part of the fun of the opening sequence is that there's 3 different styles of shooting. The whole first part is just the camera moving around. Then you stop and do 2 shots. And then when it gets into the tips part, we've got the geography of the table now, so the whole thing is done in these massive close-ups. Whenever you do a scene that long, you have to break it down into sections. 10 minutes for your opening sequence is a real long time, especially if they're doing nothing but sitting down and talking.
Okay, let me tell you what Like a Virgin's about. It's all about this Coos, who's a regular machine. I'm talking morning, day, night, afternoon.
How many is that?
A lot.
The cherry on top of Reservoir Dogs and Tarantino's style generally is a great soundtrack. Reservoir Dogs doesn't have the music one would expect for a heist thriller. The most famous needle drop in the film is Stuck in the Middle with You. It wasn't a decision that was made lightly, since nearly the entirety of the music budget had to be spent to secure it.
I wanted to play this kind of bubblegummy music, throughout the scenes. And it manages 2 things. For one thing, through most of the movie, the goofiness of the song, kind of like, a heavy, an intense movie like this, it kind of lightens it up a little bit, kind of gives it a little bit of a jab, a little wink, and this is kind of cool. It makes it kind of fun. All right. But, like in the infamous torture scene, that everyone and his brother saw came out, the use of the song Stuck in the Middle with You, which is this light, bouncy, kind of cool song. All right, it not only does it not lighten up the scene, it makes the scene even harder to watch.
Don't go anywhere, I'll be right back.
As many filmmakers have learned the hard way, no one can make another Reservoir Dogs. But we can all take these 6 lessons from it, no matter what the movie we're trying to make. Number 1, learn by doing. Number 2, cast smart. Number 3, write to your limitations. 4, have confidence. 5, diversify your visual language. And number 6, use music memorably. Get started on your own feature with Studio Binder's pre-production services, which include storyboarding and shot listing softwares. And remember, your future may be brighter than you think.
This is what's gonna happen. They've overpriced my first film. They're gonna undervalue my second film. We get less recognition, all right? And then by the third film, it'll even out.